give you a snapshot where we're at today. This incident happened on Tuesday, May 24th, so there's a lot of information, a lot of moving parts. We have a lot of people involved in this investigation. I'm going to give you a summary of what happened, but before I do that, I was able to make it here during the event on May 24th. Same with a lot of other law enforcement officers that came to this event, this critical incident. I got to see the victims, I got to see the officers, I got to see the community members. It is so hard. It's hard to take, it's traumatic. We're all hurting inside. We're hurting inside for the community members in Uvalde, Texas. We're hurting inside with our local partners that have to live here and work here every day. The victims, the family members, we feel for them. I'm a father. I can't go home tonight, hug my kids. That hurts. The members behind me are family members, their kids. It's tough. It's tough, it's hard, but that gives us the motivation to move on, to do good work for Uvalde, Texas, for the victims. We speak for the victims, and we take that dearly. Before I get started, Texas Rangers are leading this investigation, but we can't do it alone. We cannot do it alone. We have ATF, FBI, CBP, Border Patrol, Uvalde County District Attorney's Office. The list goes on and on and on. But the agencies I told you are the main ones that are assisting with this investigation. We want to know what happened, recreate the scene. That takes days, that takes hours, that takes time, a lot of information. Then we have to do a lot of interviews. So we just started. We started on Tuesday, today's Thursday. We're still grabbing a lot of information. We also, what's important to us is why. Why did he do this? Why did he do this? Who is this man? The suspect. We're going to find out. With all the different agencies that are involved, we're working every angle that's available. And we won't stop until we get all the answers that we possibly can. So again, I want to thank these men and women that are behind us supporting the DPS and the Rangers. So there's a lot of information I'm going to give you. There's some new information as of Tuesday that I wanted to clear up, that we want to clear up, that's been pushed out. We'll continue to have updates in the coming days once the information is obtained and we're able to confirm and corroborate that. We want to make sure we're pushing out the right information. Early on, when we came in, we were receiving a lot of information from a lot of different locations. That's a baseline. You start there. We made some reports. But since then, we started doing interviews. We started working the crime scene, so we're cooperating. I want to share some of that. It's a small piece of information right now, but it'll grow within days. So please, thank you for being here and being patient with us. It means a lot. On Tuesday, May 24th at 11:28, suspect just west of here wrecks his vehicle, pickup truck that he took from his grandmother. He had just shot his grandmother in the face. She's alive. She's stable at this point. 11:28, he's sitting there at the bar ditch. He jumps out the passenger side of the truck. According to witnesses, he's got a long arm, rifle, and a bag. Later we find out it's ammunition. He walks around, he sees two witnesses at the funeral home across the street from where he wrecked. He engages and fires towards them. He continues walking. He continues walking towards the school. He climbs a fence. Now he's in the parking lot, shooting at the school multiple times. 11:40, he walks into the west side of Robb Elementary. According to reports, video we have obtained from outside, inside, and again, we're still combing through that, so bear with us. Multiple rounds, numerous rounds are discharged in the school. We're trying to get a number. We're in the process of analyzing that video. 4 minutes later, local police departments, Uvalde Police Department, the Independent School District Police Department are inside, making entry. They hear gunfire, they take rounds, they move back, get cover. And during that time, they approach where the suspect is at. According to the information I have, he went in at 11:40. He walks, and I'm going to approximate 20 feet, 30 feet. He makes a right. He walks into the hallway, he makes a right, walks another 20 feet. Turns left into a schoolroom, into a classroom that has doors open in the middle. Officers are there, the initial officers, they receive gunfire. They don't make entry initially because of the gunfire they're receiving. But we have officers calling for additional resources. Everybody that's in the area, tactical teams, we need equipment, we need specialty equipment, we need body armor, we need precision riflemen, negotiators. So during that time that they're making those calls to bring in help to solve this problem and stop it immediately, they're also evacuating personnel, not say personnel, students, teachers. There's a lot going on, a lot complex situation. They're measuring. Approximately an hour later, U.S. Border Patrol tactical teams arrive. They make entry, shoot and kill the suspect. But you also had a Zavala County deputy and Uvalde Police Department that made entry and killed the suspect. Immediately, numerous officers. Now it turns into a rescue operation. How do we save these children? How do we save these children? Some made it out. We don't have a hard number yet, but that was a goal. And then continuing, making the area safe, continue. A lot of moving parts afterwards. But during, they were taking gunfire, negotiations, and developing a team to make entry to stop them. I'll take a few questions. And again, look, summary. One more thing I forgot to mention that I want to clear up that came out early on. It was reported that a school district police officer confronted the suspect that was making entry. Not accurate. He walked in unrestricted initially. So from the grandmother's house to the bar ditch to the school, into the school, he was not confronted by anybody. To clear the record on that. 4 minutes later, law enforcement are coming in to solve this problem.
So, Director, how is he able
Step by. Step. So, just want to clear that up. That's very important. And again, this will happen as we move forward. So, thank you. I'll take a few questions.
How is he able to get in?
So, So right now, during the investigation, it appears it was unlocked. So we're going to look at that and try to corroborate that as best as we can. I do that. Hey, please, one at a time, and we'll address as many questions as we can. So let me finish this question.
One at a time. Announce your name. Announce your network. Okay. Just be respectful, please.
So Josh, thank you for the question. So right now, it appears it was unlocked. Like I said, it goes back to the investigation. It takes time. We will find out as much as we can why it was unlocked, or maybe it was locked. But right now, it appears it was unlocked. So thank you.
NBC News.
Yes, sir.
You say at one point when he was inside there, among the things you were attempting negotiation, was he responding to negotiation, and in that period of time, when there continued gunfire?
So during that time, right now, according to the information we have, the majority of the gunfire was in the beginning. In the beginning. I say numerous, more than 25. I mean, it was a lot of gunfire in the beginning. During the negotiations, there wasn't much gunfire other than trying to keep the officers at bay. But that could change depending on once we analyze the video. But right now, according to the information, he did not respond.
Director Tom Galvez with NBC News. My question is this: was there a school officer on campus, and was that school officer armed? Because that's what we've been told.
So at this time, no. No, there was not an officer readily available armed. No.
But was there an officer?
No, nothing. I can't answer that yet. I'll circle back with you again. As we do that investigation, we have all these questions we want to answer. So, but I'll get back with you, sir.
There's a 12-minute gap. There's a 12-minute gap when he crashes his truck to when he enters the school. 12 minutes. What happened at 12 minutes?
So you got to understand, 11:30 is the information we have at this point that we can confirm. 11:30 a.m. the PD gets we got a crash and a man with a gun. And then you have responding officers. That's what it is. If it's 12 minutes, from 11:30 to 11:40, that's the information we have right now. Look, at the end of the day, our job is to report the facts and have those answers. We're not there yet. Over here. Say it again. So right now, the first 911 call is at 11:30. I will get the time what it took to respond. So we'll have that answer. Yes. Could. There's a lot of possibilities. There's a lot of possibilities. Until we receive an interview, because there was numerous officers at that classroom, numerous. Once we interview all those officers, what they were thinking, what they did, why they did it, the video, the residual interviews, we'll have a better idea. Could anybody have gone there sooner? You got to understand, small town. Yeah, people from Eagle Pass, from Del Rio, Laredo, San Antonio responding to a small community.
Based on the information you have so far, should the officers have gone?
That's a tough question. Again, it goes back. Our job is to report the facts. And later we can answer those questions.
What you know so far, should those officers?
I don't have enough information to answer that question just yet. So, one more question, please.
Is it accurate that eyewitnesses and potentially parents of the students were urging the police to go in while you were waiting for a tactical SWAT team, even that some parents were asking to borrow police armor so they could make a counter-assault on the school?
I have heard that information, but we have not verified that yet. So, we have not verified is that a true statement or not, or is it just rumor out there? So you got to understand, we're getting a lot of information. We're trying to track down and see what is true. We want to vet it. That's all I have for questions. Thank you so much.
Hold on.
So look, we appreciate the questions.
What were the officers doing between 11:44 and 12:45?
I got you. Yes, sir.
And behind that, you guys have said that he was barricaded. Can you explain to us how he was barricaded and why you guys stopped that door?
So I have taken all your questions into consideration. We will be doing updates. We will be doing updates to answer those questions.
Answer that question now, sir.
What is your name? Shimon. I hear you.
Because we've been given a lot of bad information, so why don't you clear all of this up now and explain to us how it is that your officers were in there for an hour, yes, rescuing the people, but yet no one was able to get inside that room.
Shimon, we will circle back with you. We want to answer all your questions. We want to give you the why. That's our job. So give us time. I'm taking all your questions. I'm taking them back to talk to the team. And look, thank you for being here. We'll talk soon. We'll talk soon. Thank you. Thank you.
You have been watching a quite freewheeling press conference here outside Robb Elementary School as Texas Rangers try to clarify the police timeline and address the anger and frustration from some parents. And I don't know if this press conference would alleviate the concerns that parents had. In fact, we got confirmation that the suspect arrived on the scene here in Uvalde, 11:28 at the school, crashed his vehicle, exited the vehicle, and almost immediately began firing at the school. Entered at around 11:40. A full hour, we now have confirmed, went by before the classroom where the majority of the people died, if not all, where the shooter was actually breached by law enforcement. I'm here with Janet Shamlin, who was listening to the press conference with me. What stood out to you?
I mean, it raises more questions than answers, right? A full hour. The parents were out there complaining, asking if they themselves could go in, urging law enforcement to go in. And it sounds like these local officers were waiting for a tactical team. And although authorities said that it was that they believe that most of the deaths took place in the first few minutes, that's a long span of time to wait. Now, they also talked about negotiating, but didn't, expand on what that meant, that they were negotiating while they were waiting for a more advanced tactical team.
We also don't know the nature of this barricade or blockade, how the shooter was in the classroom.
Right, but we are hearing from a child now. The first account from a child inside the classroom who survived the carnage and has talked about the gunman shooting through the door, coming in, hearing the police outside. We'll have that on the CBS Evening News, but it is a riveting account, and it could put into perspective what happened.
Yeah, and the Texas Rangers saying they want to interview all the officers on the scene to ask them why they didn't try to make an entry prior to the special tactical unit arriving. But again, that raises more questions.
And that is the question every parent wants to know. Why wasn't something done before an hour's time?
Yeah, and then if that's not enough, we have the unlocked door in the back of the school. Officer on campus. The responding officer was just nearby and making an approach. Not going to be good news for parents here.
No, parents are going to be very frustrated about this, and they're in mourning right now as we're looking at the white crosses behind us on what should have been the last day of this school year.
Yeah, I want to bring in James Gagliano, who's a CBS News law enforcement and security analyst, retired FBI supervisory special agent. James, I'm really glad to have you here. You were listening into the press conference as well. Was protocol followed by law enforcement in this incident?
Well, Tony, tough situation sitting back, and I'm listening to the pain in Victor Escalon, who's the Texas Department of Public Safety spokesperson there, and you can tell he's got a tough job right now. Here's what we know. We know that the suspect crashed his car around 11:28 a.m., and at 11:30 a.m., 2 minutes later, the first 911 call goes in. At 11:40 in the morning, the suspect enters Robb Elementary School through an open door. He then goes down a hallway about 20 feet, turns either make the left or right, goes down another 20 feet and into a classroom. Now, shortly thereafter, the Texas Department of Public Safety is stating that it was probably about a 4-minute response that an SRO, which is a school resource officer from the Uvalde Police Department, and other Uvalde Police Department personnel made entry. Now, Here's where it's going to get tough, because then there was an hour period in between that time, the first potential opportunity for interdiction of the suspect, and when the Customs and Border Patrol agents arrived and were successfully able to make entry into the classroom after 19 children and 2 adults were massacred, and interdict and neutralize the suspect. I could tell that they're not comfortable yet with explaining exactly the processes that were going on. I can tell you this, it's much easier from my perch here. I was a SWAT team member in the FBI for 20 years, a SWAT team leader in New York City for 4 years, and a member of the FBI's hostage rescue team. When you are responding to these incidents, you are in an information vacuum, so you are completely oblivious to any of the facts leading up to it. Is this a broader conspiracy? Are there other attack points? Is this a potential ambush? Are there IEDs, improvised explosive devices? Tony, there are a whole host of things that you're trying to process, and you're doing it in real time. Some people are going to argue that an hour is an inexorably long period of time, and I would agree. However, it also depends on how large the school is, how many children are there, how many personnel from law enforcement were there to move those personnel safely outward, and then how much difficulty was it to breach the door to get in. Tony, those are going to be the questions that I think in the next couple of days we're going to get some answers to.
James, you make a good point. It's very easy to second guess. It's very easy to look back, and we don't know what was in the minds of those officers outside the door as that hour passed, as the minutes ticked by. I am curious to know, from your experience, would local law enforcement likely be equipped to take on an attacker armed with an AR-15 style rifle and apparently a bag of ammo?
So, Tony, that is a great question, and I want you to think back to the last 2 years. Now, it was almost 2 years ago that George Floyd was killed while in custody of Minneapolis police, and since then, the protests, the defund the police movement, and the pushback on, and I'll use this in quotation marks, the militarization of police and police being viewed as, quote, occupying forces, close quote. So when you ask the question, are local police departments as well-trained, as well-equipped as, say, federal law enforcement, SWAT teams, or like the hostage rescue team, or say some of the emergency service units like the police department in New York City with 36,000 members? The answer is no. The officer's going to have whatever they have with them. So this is going to be a tough one to see what they had on hand when they went in and how ill-equipped they may have been to confront the attack.
Yeah, and whether the body armor they were wearing would have been sufficient to stand up to rounds from an AR-15 style rifle. CBS News has confirmed that the shooter had more than 600 rounds on him. He was certainly armed to take on as many comers as were outside that door. I have a very pointed question, though, James, about what standard operating procedure is in a case like this. You're right about the information vacuum, but one can presume, without being a medical doctor, that people shot inside were bleeding and within a range when they might have been saved at some point during that hour. And I wonder, is the procedure in a case like that with a school shooter for law enforcement to make a breach right away no matter what?
Yeah. Now, I'll say that with a caveat. Post-Columbine, we learned painful lessons back in April of 1999. And those lessons were, you go to the sound of the guns. You do not wait. These people are not looking to, negotiate, for a plane to, Aruba. They're not looking to get political prisoners released. They're going in there trying to effect as much carnage as possible. So you go in to interdict them. You do not wait for a homogenous team. That is a big situation. I think that's gonna be something that's gonna be looked at in the wake of it.
All right, James Gagliano giving us a lot to think about here. Thank you very much, James. I want to go to Nicole Killian, who's on Capitol Hill, where a rally was held earlier today, hoping to push lawmakers to take action on gun violence. Nicole, what is Congress doing? What can Congress do? Or what can they get done is really the question.
Yeah, well, Congress is leaving town right now, and that's the issue among many gun safety advocates. They are getting ready to break for the Memorial Day recess, and we asked some senators about the optics of that given the tragedy in Texas. I spoke with Connecticut Senator Chris Murphy, who told me, look, sometimes we get more things done out of Washington than we do inside. And so he is leading bipartisan negotiations to try to come up with some type of compromise package on gun reform legislation. CBS News has learned that he and about 8 other lawmakers, both Democrats and Republicans, met here in the Capitol this afternoon to try to talk about a way forward. One consensus that seems to be emerging is around potentially red or yellow flag laws that would enable law enforcement to seize weapons temporarily from people who are considered a danger to themselves or others. I can tell you, though, Tony, just on a personal level, this is really hitting senators hard. Right now, this is the only chamber that is in at the moment. And, whether it is Senator Joe Manchin, who just told reporters he can't stop thinking about his grandchildren, or California Senator Alex Padilla, who said he has kids about the same age as these young people in Uvalde, it is really hitting senators on an emotional level. Even Minority Leader Mitch McConnell said that he is okay with Texas Senator John Cornyn, who is just there in Uvalde, engaging Democrats on this issue to try to come up with some type of bipartisan solution here. Tony.
All right, Nicole Killian for us on Capitol Hill. And before we close today, reminder of why this press conference was as emotional as it was. If you look behind me, there is that memorial, the white crosses, the flowers, the balloons. It doesn't escape notice that those flowers, those balloons might have been purchased for celebratory reasons this weekend, for graduations, for time with family. And instead, they are part of a makeshift memorial here outside Robb Elementary School, accompanied by 19 wooden crosses, each emblazoned with the name of an 8, 9, or 10-year-old shooting victim here in Uvalde, Texas. And you see their pictures on our screen. Our coverage will continue on the CBS News streaming, your local news, and tonight on the CBS Evening News. This has been a CBS News special report. I'm Tony DeCopel in Uvalde, Texas.
And you've been watching a special report updating the investigation into Tuesday's mass shooting at Robb Elementary School in Uvalde, Texas. Police updated their investigation, saying they're still piecing together exactly what happened inside the school. CBS News has also learned the suspect had 7 fully loaded magazines with 210 rounds of ammunition on him and another 15 mags in a backpack. Experts say that is double the amount of ammunition that a soldier would go into war with. Officers did not address complaints that they were slow to respond. CBS News Homeland Security and Justice reporter Nicole Skanga joins me now for more. Nicole, thanks for being with us. Do you think the pace of this investigation is sort of moving the way it should?
Well, certainly, Jim, right now, investigators are still speaking with law enforcement officials who responded to the scene, members of U.S. Customs and Border Protection, U.S. Border Patrol agents, and they are still piecing together details. A lot of very big questions remain, the largest perhaps what the motivation of the gunman was. Why did he do this? Who is this man? You heard Texas DPS alluding to that during the press conference. Certainly, there is a massive question of why it took, upwards of 1 hour before a tactical team was deployed inside Robb Elementary School. Here's what we do know about the federal law enforcement response. 80 federal law enforcement agents from U.S. Customs and Border Protection responded to the mass shooting at Robb Elementary initially. Now, that's according to Jason Owens. He's the chief patrol agent for the U.S. Border Patrol's Del Rio sector. That's the sector around Uvalde. Owens confirmed that off-duty law enforcement officers rushed to the scene. We know that one CBP agent sustained gunshot wounds and was hospitalized. We just learned that that agent has been released and is in good condition. You know, we also know that U.S. Border Patrol had a station in Uvalde about 3 miles east of Robb Elementary School. And so there were agents that came from both that station, from nearby Eagle Pass, further along in San Antonio, you know, folks that came in from off duty, from training, you know, folks that were in the field and responded. And so, you know, speaking with federal law enforcement agents, CBS News has also learned that it was about 11:50 a.m. that the BORTAC and BORSTAR special tactical team arrived at the scene of Robb Elementary, still piecing together exactly when, you know, agents were entering the school and what was really taking place in the half hour, you know, before that tactical team made the decision to go in, and how they were able to gain entry to the shooter who was barricaded within a classroom. So, you know, that's a big way of saying there are still some things that we are piecing through. But certainly when there are this many law enforcement agencies involved, this investigation is going to be very far reaching, not only into the shooter and his motivations, but how law enforcement responded and who needs to be held accountable for that response.
Okay, so Nicole, right now everyone's watching Uvalde for information about what happened, the law enforcement response. As you just mentioned, there was a number of sort of federal agencies interfacing on the day of the shooting. What can you tell us, though, about the federal role now as this moves into an investigation of what happened, why it happened, who was this person, not just in terms of the federal response the day of, but in terms of the investigative part of this, DOJ, DHS? What can we expect?
So Texas Department of Public Health and Safety, they are the lead on this investigation, Jim. But in addition, we know that FBI and ATF are on the scene, that they have behavioral analysis experts. They have experts who are gathering evidence. They also have individuals who are trained in victim and trauma response that are assisting victims on the scene right now. We know that there are federal law enforcement agents that are assisting by combing through the shooter's social media, for instance, looking for any signs or indicators, red flags, perhaps, you know, of who this gunman was. We know at this point, law enforcement has told us there were no signs of mental health illness, but that is one large question. Another question, how the gunman was able to obtain a weapon. We were told by law enforcement that this individual purchased his first firearm, an AR-15 style rifle, after his 18th birthday. Just one day after his 18th birthday, he bought a second firearm, a similar weapon, about 4 days thereafter. And so, you know, federal law enforcement officers are going to be helping to create a profile of who this gunman was in hopes of finding a motive, something to explain this tragic incident. In addition, they're going to be assisting with victims' families, processing all of the trauma that has occurred. Beyond that, you mentioned the Department of Homeland Security. You know, that is the department that oversees CBP, U.S. Customs and Border Protection. They are, of course, you know, responsible for the BORTAC units and BORSTAR units that we know, you know, took out that shooter. These are specially equipped tactical teams. They are built for this kind of specialized rapid response, deliberate deployments to law enforcement situations like this. And they are conducting their own investigation, their own audit of this response, as is policy. So they're going to be interviewing their agents to figure out exactly what happened in that classroom when that gunman was taken down.
Okay, Nicole Skanga, CBS News reporter covering both the Department of Homeland Security and the Department of Justice. We appreciate your time and insight. Thank you.
Thank you.
The ability of an 18-year-old to buy a long gun has been in place in the state of Texas for more than 60 years. We as a state, we as a society, need to do a better job with mental health.
Jacob Charles joins me now. He's the executive director at the Center for Firearms Law and a lecturing fellow at Duke Law School.